Morning, everyone. This is Pimento, and we are going to continue um, making inferences about the character through details in our story. We came up with yesterday that in sentence 2, we found that the character was thrifty because she shops at a thrift store. Like Savers is a thrift store. In sentence 2, we found out that she was confident because she purchased unusual shoes and she liked them. In sentence 3, we learned that she was a little impatient. She put on her shoes as soon as she leaves the store. So that showed that she was impatient. I left you yesterday with some sentences that you could look up on your own. One of them was sentence 9. What character trait did you come up with? Let's read the sentence. Great, I thought. Someone tells me to outsmart a pair of shoes, and I can't. This doesn't speak well for my brain. Well, now I'm thinking in sentence 9, I'm beginning to think, the shoes are taking over. They're making her go everywhere she doesn't, want to go. It's taking her up Pine Street and down this street and towards this street. And when she finds that the woman is yelling to her that she has to outsmart it, I think she's starting to feel a little bit frustrated at this point. She's like, what? I have to outsmart my shoes? So I think she's feeling a little frustrated. And my evidence is that in sentence 9, she says, this great, I thought. Someone tells me to outsmart a pair of shoes and I can't. This doesn't speak well for my brain. So I'm going to write, and I can't. This doesn't speak well of my brain. It means she can't think it up. She's starting to feel a little frustrated. The next sentence I told you to look at was sentence 11. Did I mention that I don't like heights much? I tried not to look down. I kept going, my heart pounding like a giant hammer in my chest, when suddenly my feet slipped. What character trait did you get from sentence 11? I wonder if it's the same as mine. I learned she's afraid of heights. Oops, I'm running out of room here. And I always mix up my I and E. Always, always. And it's because she says that her heart is pounding like a giant hammer and she's trying not to look down. So she tries not to look down. Her heart is pounding. Like a giant hammer. in her chest. I'm going to move our objectives down so I can have more room. The next sentence I told you to look at was 12. So, those shoes weren't perfect after all. What are you thinking? She's saying, so those shoes weren't perfect after all. I think she's quite clever or smart to come up with that conclusion. So I'm thinking she's quite smart. Or I'm thinking maybe a better, she's very observant. I think I like that word a little bit better. Observant, because she's noticing that her shoes weren't moving when they were dangling. So I'm going to say she's observant. Observant. She notices. She notices. And my proof is, so those shoes weren't perfect after all. I like how she says so. I think that adds to how she's thinking. So, she's coming to a conclusion. So, those shoes are not perfect after all. And then I said, let's jump down to sentence 31. Sentence 31. I sure hope those wacky shoes know how to drive. What do you think about sentence 31? What conclusion did you come up to? What kind of character trait? Did you say she had a sense of humor? Because I was thinking the same thing. She has a sense of humor. She's finding something funny in the situation. And my evidence is when she says, I sure hope those wacky shoes know how to drive. How many of your answers matched mine? So we know that from our character, just from the details in the story, that she's thrifty, she's confident, she's a little impatient, she's getting frustrated, she's afraid of heights. She's very observant when she notices that. And she has a sense of humor. I would also think the fact that she comes up with an idea of how to outsmart her shoes, I would like to add that she's very clever. She's very clever. I don't know where I'm going to fit that right now. It seems like our board is filled, but I would say that she is very clever. I'd like to add that. And my evidence is she outsmarts the shoes in the end. She comes up with hanging from the tree, calling the boy to bring cement in, jumps into the wagon with the cement, and then has people help her out of her shoes. So I think that was a quite clever idea she came up with. So that ends our little lesson on character traits and identifying the character. We go a little bit deeper than saying the character is a little girl in the story. We really figure out who she is, even though we don't know her name, but we do know a little bit about her by looking at the evidence and making inferences about the details. See you tomorrow when we'll be working on setting.